Denver, Gridiron and Hoops. Welcome back to Denver, Gridiron and Hoops, where dreams are made. That's what we do here. That being said, we've got the Broncos coming in hot, adding another cornerback, even though that seems to be their position of strength. We got an embarrassment of riches. I'm David McDougall, and joining me today is my very special guest, Devontae Gomez, straight from Hawaii.
What's going on, my man? Thank you for having me on. I'm ready to talk some sports, talk some Denver, and look at some of the changes that we're bringing into this season.
Heck yeah. See, Devontae may be an island guy now, but once upon a time, his roots run deep in Denver. He just recently went out there to kind of work the area, get to know everybody, and take over the island because that's how
Oh,
Devontae
yeah,
rolls.
I'm really working on my tan. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to even it out. That's the biggest thing. But no, seriously, Colorado's always going to be home. It's always going to be 303. So I'm always keeping my eyes on the boys. Denver Nuggets and Broncos especially. Can't say so much about my Rockies. They've been breaking my heart constantly, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, the Rockies are a running gag on this show at this point in time.
Yeah, it's something that we gotta live with, but I think it's something that we, like, kinda always lived with, it's kinda like what the Nuggets used to be. It was a lot of hard seasons watching those guys getting thrashed around, to finally end up with a team that could be top contenders, which is amazing.
Little bit of background story here. Devontae and I, once upon a time, partially coached a football team for a very limited amount of time.
That was awesome, that was cool.
Heck yeah. Yeah, Devonta and I go way back. We met in high school and it's been butterflies and all that type of stuff ever since.
Oh, yeah, rainbows, unicorns.
Yeah, so we got quite the docket going on. We're gonna start it off hot with some fresh news in terms of Broncos. Most specifically, we've got some key dates. So rookies report Wednesday, July 16th. So, bare minimum, I don't know about you, but I'm salivating at the mouth ready for this upcoming season. Where are you standing at with all this?
When I think about, how we were this last decade and then leading up to what I seen last season, I think it's a breath of fresh air, man. I mean, finally we have an offense that can complement the defense and give them a breath, let them breathe a little bit. And seeing the defensive stretches, those guys on the field for 30 plus minutes a game, just the constant 3 and outs on the offensive side, just embarrassing. And so seeing that offense really step up and having a quarterback that is a true leader, like I've said it to a lot of people, and I still continue to say it. Bo Nix, his composure and his leadership as such a young quarterback in the league is pretty impressive.
He's the man. I've developed a man crush, and it reminds me back of those Tim Tebow days, where he just, it's not always pretty, but it gets the job done. By all means, he's actually a quarterback, unlike Tebow, but it just kind of gives me that little bit of nostalgia.
He's got flair. The kid's got flair, and I like that about him. Showing his tenacity and showing his passion for the game. When we saw him kind of trade back and forth with Sean Payton, that was nice.
Loved it.
So it's good to see somebody who actually has that love for the game and wants to win.
Yeah, fiery passion, exactly. Yeah, and that's the reason why for the first time since Peyton Manning, I've actually like this offseason, like the additions, like number one, like they were phenomenal, at least in my opinion. Going really heavy defense, getting a tight end because we haven't had a tight end in forever. And then this recent J.K. Dobbins signing, man, I was over the moon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we can do in that tight end position because that's the missing link. I mean, you think back, in the '90s, with Shannon Sharp, and then of course with Thomas, when we had a run with Manning, that's been the missing link there. Having that check down option, having that extra man that you can rely on to catch the ball. I mean, we've had good blocking tight ends, but to actually have some receiving tight end, that's going to be awesome. Good addition.
Yeah, and to be real, our tight end group was, I mean, relatively a non-factor for approximately 2 to 3 seasons. So it's definitely going to be nice. Even though, like I was mentioning with Vinny, they're treating him as if he's a slot receiver out at training camp. So, I mean, I could care less. As long as the dude's catching balls, I don't need him block because we need that red zone threat. But yeah, so I mentioned rookies report on July 16th, so right around the corner. We're all getting antsy. A veterans report on July 22nd. So it's definitely rolling quick. First practice is July 25th, and then also July 26th. And then really that's what's going to kick into what we wanted to mention. The recent news that came out was joint practices. So the 49ers we're going to have a joint practice with them, and then also a joint practice with the Cardinals, both to kind of coincide with a preseason game that follows those joint practices. Pretty cool stuff, because I think I've only ever seen them have one joint practice. But what are your thoughts on those?
I think it's good, giving our boys, more touches, more feel, and then, always getting that extra look at the opposing team, seeing what they have to bring, what their package is. It really helps with our younger players, and definitely when it comes to the Broncos right now, we do have a lot of young guys out there, so getting them that actual NFL look, gets them ready for the season. There's nothing wrong with more practice.
I don't know about you, but at least for me, like growing up playing football, I always felt like I gained more from a scrimmage than just like practicing against the same dummy that I had practiced against, week on, week out. And like it just feels like, and there's more of a competitive edge. So I like the iron sharpens iron aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Heck yeah. So to move on from there, what I wanted to originally get out of you and pry out of you, to be honest, is your take on the Nuggets. Previous season, whether you want to go into the regular season, playoff, there's no bounds here. I just want to hear your overall impressions on what happened last year.
I feel like in a lot of ways we did amazing, but there's a lot of places where we still need improvement. I think, I've heard you guys speak over in the past, just about having that extra key element, bringing in another name that could really complement, Jokic and Murray. I mean, of course, Aaron Gordon's been playing great ball. I mean, Murray, he's dynamite in the playoffs for sure. Throughout the season, you kind of get this hit or miss. I feel like, us making that huge change with the GM and the coach leaving and then closing out the season with those dubs, that was good to see. So it really feels like the team has the motivation to want to go out there and win. But I also feel like there's this one tool missing. I feel like there's this one thing keeping us shy of being a true staple name in the NBA. I mean, we got our chip and that's good, but to continue this on, to look into the future and to really get the best out of Jokic's prime years, I think we really need to look into options of getting some more talent in here. And it's really the only thing I could think of. When I think about the playoffs, you know, but the Clippers, I would say hands down that was our best run right there because our boys were healthy. They had some really good matchups and they stepped up, going all the way to that game 7 and getting a victory. When we went up against the Thunder, the thing that killed me is just we were broken, man. Just broken. You're looking at, Michael Porter Jr. out there with, looking like he's wearing half shoulder pads, and you have Aaron Gordon with his injury. And then you also have, Jamal Murray. I'm not sure what's going on with that man's immune system, but it seems like he's always getting sick, And so for him playing through a sickness, kudos to him. He still has some good games, but, you know, it didn't seem like we went in there healthy and in the right mindset, and it got the better of us on the court. I could see the lazy play against the Thunder, which was killing us with their defense.
It was infuriating.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you see Murray at times, it just looked like he was making passes as if he was just inbounding a ball, just a really lackluster, lack of energy, just kind of tossing the ball out there and just getting snagged up, quick points
Yeah.
across the board. And that right there, that was heartbreaking, making me want to throw the remote at the TV, because I'm just like, what are you guys doing? This isn't the ball that we play.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because honestly, I don't think we brought that up. Anytime he would feed Jokic an entry pass, anytime he would do the entry pass, it was just so lazy and it was so easy for the defender to pick it off. And it was just so frustrating. And your point about Michael Porter looking like a football player, man, I could just, as soon as you said that, all I could think of was blue 42. But seriously, man, you're dead on there. And I completely agree with you that I think that for the most part, like, they're so close, but they just need something. They just need a little bit extra, because like that title year, like if we think about it, they had KCP and Bruce Brown and like and Christian Brown, and like between the three of them, it was just it was that nice grit between all of them, and we're kind of missing that element now. And what's toughest is to upgrade now. We're just so limited. We've got one first round pick in 2031. We've got no salary cap space. So, like I was proposing to Vinny on our last episode, we really got to rely on Dario Saric rejecting his player option, and that would open up us an MLE for us, a decent size one. I think it's like 12.5. And then we could bring someone like Bruce Brown back. Bring Bruce Brown back and then get lucky with a single veteran minimum. Like I'm talking if we could get like Horford or something like that. Cause that's like my no trade off season because I really don't think they're gonna make a trade, which makes me worry. So that's kind of what I'm holding my hat on right now.
It's I feel like there always this constant proposal of Michael Porter Jr. being on the chopping block, and I mean I've heard even talks to maybe even Christian Braun kind of entering that conversation with him, and that breaks my heart because I love Christian Braun or sorry Brown, the
Oh,
way
you're
that
good.
he comes into the game and he brings crazy amounts of energy, crazy tenacity. He's good on both sides of the ball, playing outstanding defense. But there are a lot of teams that would be looking for some young talent like that to maybe be a good addition to their roster. So you know, I, I know that when it comes to trades, it gets tricky, but I feel like if we keep holding on to the same roster, I think we're doomed to have a lot of the same result. Um, which is, it's hard to say because, like you said, we're so close. But as we've seen, in this last playoff run, teams have they figured it out. I mean, Murray and Jokic running that top of the key, it's the best in the league. You can't deny that. But because it's so predictable, they could really build a good defense around it. And I feel like the way that the Clippers played it with their big man, really putting the pressure on Jokic, it kind of showed that he can get rattled a little bit. I feel like he had a couple of games where he still put up good points. I mean, Jokic is going to do Jokic no matter what. But
Mhm.
it just seemed like he had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And if we could just have another man come in and alleviate some of that for us, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Christian Brown because we haven't actually dove into him. I love Christian Brown, all effort guy, like always finishes in transition, which is an underrated ability. Like that's a very very positive factor. I don't know if it's just someone trying to like overvalue someone so something happens to the Nuggets, but some ESPN insider was saying that when he gets a contract extension, it's going to be 30 million. I can tell you this: I love Christian Brown. I don't 30 million love Christian Brown. If
I
that
don't
really
think not yet.
if that really is the case, man, I mean, they probably do got to deal him before a deal comes along. Because I mean, honestly, the max I could see for Christian Brown is like 22. Basically, he can't make more than Gordon in my mind. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
although he's good, he's just not that type of player, at least in my mind. But do you see
Yeah,
anything different
he has a
there?
lot of development.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I tell you what, if he could actually pick up his dribbling to where he could be a primary ball handler and we can actually move Murray to off guard, so where he's
Mhm.
not having to break those presses and stuff like that. Because let's be real, Murray conditioning's never really been his strong side. When he's having to break presses throughout the entire playoffs, he starts wearing down big time.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of across the board. I mean, Porter also. I mean, when it comes to the dribble game,
Oh
I think
yeah,
you guys talked about this on one of your previous episodes. He's so quick to dish the ball out, and it's just kind of frustrating. I mean, to be at this level of NBA and to be almost, it looks like he's scared to dribble. I don't really understand why he's so quick to pick up the ball. And with Christian Braun, I mean, he has had some crazy development. I mean, I think it was last season he was averaging like 7.5 points a game. And this
yeah,
season rolls in, he's getting almost double at 15.5. I want to say he led the league in fast break points, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, he did.
Um, so he's really kind of, shown a lot of his colors, and I love the way that he's willing to bring it to anybody, whether it's a Rudy Gobert. He's willing to take it right up to your face and stuff it, and I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, if you could get that dribbling down, maybe be someone that could take it at the top of the key, control the offense a little more. Yeah, give Murray that true break that he needs. Yeah, that would be awesome to see.
Yeah, last season my brother was super disappointed when they let KCP go for about 22 million to the Magic. And at the time, I remember telling him I was like, look, it was the plan the whole time. Christian Brown was supposed to replace him. They're not going to pay that total for a 3-year contract, 22 million per, when they can develop their in-house guy. But in hindsight, I recognize that they should have kept KCP, even if it meant hindering the development of Christian Brown because of the championship window. But hindsight being 2020, it's just the way things roll. It's one of those things where damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, KCP, he was another one that the younger players really loved, his staff really loved. He has a lot of respect when it comes to the court, and that's not just in house. Across the NBA. I feel like right now, kind of one of those figures that we have is like DeAndre Jordan. And with DeAndre Jordan, I have my frustrations as well. In his prime, defensive phenom, right? But as it is right now, he's just kind of uh, just lackluster. He doesn't get a lot of playing time. I think in the playoffs, I mean, maybe he was getting less than 5 minutes a game. Even if that. So really not providing any kind of relief for Jokic, and just definitely doesn't have the same vision. So when you have a center that comes in, they're stepping in, and they don't have the same gameplay as your main guy. Now you have to change up your whole offense on the fly, and that really kind of messes things up.
Well, and that's what frustrates me is they are supposed to change their whole offense because it's an entirely different skill set that you're dealing with, but they don't. They're like, oh, let's still run out Jokic ball without Jokic, and you can't do
Yeah.
that without an MVP. You need some type of structure.
I've seen his passing game step up a little bit. I could tell that he's been working on it, but it's not at that caliber. Definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not at that point in his career anymore, if you get what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
that's why I mean, honestly, Mason Plumlee's a free agent. His passing's not terrible, so if we could somehow convince him to come back to be backup center at minimum, I'd definitely be okay with that. Even though come playoffs, he almost becomes a liability because of his lack of ability to hit a free throw. But I mean, that is what it is, if you get what I mean. So tell me, Devontae, out of the Nuggets prospects, I'm assuming the main ones would be, excuse me, Strother and Peyton Watson. Which one is your favorite there?
I got to go with Peyton. Strother, he had that one game. He comes out in the playoffs, puts up 15, really, brought a lot of energy from the bench. But I think there's a reason why the coaching kept him on the bench as long as they did, before they brought him out. I think it's just really they don't trust him, and to build that trust on the team and from your leadership, it takes time. Peyton Watson, he earned the name. Swatson, man. He gets up there, he plays great defense. He gets himself into some foul trouble, but being a bench player, he could do that. And he
Yeah.
brings some good energy. And I've seen his offensive game develop as well. So I think overall, I think he'd probably be the better choice for me. I haven't really seen much from Strother when it comes on the defensive end. He's got a good three ball, but yeah, I think he's got a lot more that he has to develop in his game than where Peyton Watson is at this time.
Yeah, they really are polar opposites. You got one guy who's primarily an offensive threat. The one thing that Strother does provide is a little bit of playmaking in terms of being able to dribble and penetrate and dish, and he does have some playmaking chops. And then on the opposite end, you've got Peyton Watson, who unfortunately I think just doesn't get the time he needs. The whole season he should have had a lot more playing time so that way he can get those developmental minutes because unfortunately, it's one of those things where we got our hat on in terms of we're hanging our hat on it. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna trust the roster you have, then you need to actually trust it throughout the season. So hopefully Adelman will get him some more minutes because I think he actually has like the highest ceiling of the players under like 25 on our team. So if we could unlock that, I mean, we're talking defensively. I mean, I know this is hyperbole, but I mean, he's got Kawhi Leonard level defensive traits, and if we
Yeah.
can unlock him and kind of let him learn how to slow the game down, like how a Jokic does. Now, obviously, you can't teach a guy to have the IQ of Jokic, but teaching him to stay within his own game, not go crazy for lack of a better term. I think he's definitely intriguing. He's also a lot of rumors are he's the one that keeps leaking things to the media. So I'm wondering if from a team chemistry standpoint, if they might actually have to move on from him at some point.
I think, some of that when it comes to like, media handling, just um, you know, youth and just just lack of understanding of what impact that has to the organization. You know, I think as time comes and he matures, I think that some of that stuff will change, especially with having some of the seasoned guys in there. You know, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, all that. I think they'll be able to, you know, grab him around the neck. Come here, boy. You know, let's talk this out. You know, but for now, I just think he's having young man issues when it comes to that lack of maturity.
You know, that is a great point because he still is the youngest player on the team, despite having, I can't recall if it's 2 or 3 seasons under his belt, but he's only like 20, 21, 22. So that is a good point. He's still got some room to grow. So yeah, that's definitely something we got to keep an eye on. And then speaking of youth, I'm going to jump over to the Broncos. How you feeling about the most recent draft?
The draft, you know, initially I was kind of a little I was kind of a little struck that we doubled down on defense the way that we did, but at the same time I love that we doubled down on defense. It's definitely our strong point, and I think we recognize that there is a big weakness on the other side of Patrick Surtain. So I mean, you made the comment earlier that we're so heavy on the cornerback roster right now, and of course that's going to get trimmed down as you know as training camp comes and the preseason comes along, but I think they really need to find a true second to complement him. I mean, you think back, you know, when we had Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, you know, the no fly zone, you know, I mean, we owned those guys for a few seasons there. I mean, we have the potential to do that now. I mean, you have the defensive player of the year with Patrick Sertan. He's doing amazing. They're scared to throw the ball his way, and he's proved why. I mean, he's able to break it up. He's able to get those interceptions, but they expose a weakness on our other side, whether it be our starting guy or the backup. And teams are still able to put, you know, 20-yard balls on us, you know, and stretch out plays that should have been shut down. You know, it's frustrating when you're seeing, you know, 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 12s or more, and it keeps going, you know, just because of a collapse of coverage, you know. So I understand why they made that decision. And then for us to jump in and actually look into a running back, I mean, I think that's long overdue. I love Javante Williams. I do. You know, his first couple seasons with us were amazing, but after the injury coming back, it just hasn't been the same. I feel like he's not able to roll out of the tackle the way that he was. I don't know if that's hesitation or if that's just maybe he lost a step, but 500 yards,
Not
it
gonna
ain't
cut it.
cutting it. Yeah, it
The,
ain't
the
cutting it.
the one thing I was surprised with him was he had 44 or 45 receptions. I was actually surprised by that, and it didn't even really strike me as so much because I think they were all like 2, 3 yard gains, if you get what I mean. So it was kind of empty, if you get what I mean. But I am going to contradict you a little bit on the corner standpoint because I
Okay.
do think that Riley Moss is a baller when healthy, which sucks, because he does have those injury concerns. And I do think, according to what I was hearing from Sean Payton and everything like that, is that his primary plans for Barron is nickel. And then also, I think he's going to be running him in some crazy exotic packages. I'm talking, you could see him lining up at linebacker and throwing the defense off in that regard. The guy is a jack of all trades. He was actually one of 3 people on my board for the Broncos. One of the reasons being is that his coach at Texas was like Vance Joseph's cousin or something like that. So like immediately I was like, wait a second, there's a connection here. This guy might be a Bronco, and I was really excited when they got him. Just cornerbacks, not a wide receiver. People don't think it's a sexy pick, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Pairing him with Hufanga, which hey, you got to tell me, is there any Hawaiian love out there for Hufanga?
Oh yeah, man. These boys, they support out here, and they love seeing their people being able to make it to the grand stage. So I know that we'll probably see some more Bronco jerseys flying around out
That's
here.
what I'm talking about. We got to take over Hawaii. I
There we
gotta
go.
I gotta come out there with one as well. But yeah, man, in general, like RJ Harvey, I was like really down on because I thought some of the running backs on the board were better. And then I started watching the guy's tape and I was like, crap, I see it. I see why they drafted this guy because he looks
It,
like he's a talent.
yeah, he's got downhill potential. I mean, he's got some good breakaway speed. He's got everything that you really want to see in a young running back. And of course, you know, pack a little bit of muscle on that boy, get him in the weight room, get him nice and strong for this next season. I think he's gonna look nice.
Funny you say that because they say that he's got like the biggest quads they've ever seen. There's one radio show host. He says, the guy's quads are as big as my whole torso. Just two torsos walking around out there.
But that's what we need, man. We need a guy who could run through the arm tackles.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of comments on this from the last season. Watching our running backs just essentially lay down little arm tackles, just barely grabbing the jersey, and these guys are falling out as if they're getting tackled by a whole group. I couldn't understand it. I know that the talent that we had back there is better than that, and I couldn't understand why we couldn't get it going.
Yeah. So who was your favorite free agency edition?
I definitely got to go with our tight end acquisition.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's just like we were talking about earlier. It's just what we need, and it's time for it. I mean, the
Yep.
man has already proved on the point sheet that he's good for the reception. I want to say what he's already about 6,000 yards of receiving in his career so far, and he's still looking good. I mean, he's got a good amount of height to him. I mean, not I mean, I would like to see maybe like 3, 6, 4, but he's still the man's got some spread on him and he's got great hands. And really that's what we need is we need a seasoned veteran who can come in, learn the offense fast, hit the ground running, and make some catches, and definitely get us into the red zone and capitalize on those points.
Yeah. Yeah. I classify him as an athlete, like occasionally you just need those athletes on the team, like, and not to say that he's not a football player, because sometimes there's athletes and then there's football players. He's just a football playing Jesse, as they could call him, like he's not, by all means, he's not going to be running people over and stuff like that, but he's a weapon for Sean Payton, that's for sure.
And that's it is, Sean is a mastermind when it comes to offensive schemes, and he's going to find a way to get him open. And with our depth at wide receiver right now, we have a pretty good amount of depth there. It's I believe that they can really run some clever schemes where they can get him open, maybe out into the flats, get him open over in the center, and just allow our receivers to spread out a little bit as well. Two, not make it so predictable. We're not always looking towards the same options. I know Cortland Sutton is definitely a favorite, when it comes to Bo Nix, but it'd be nice to see some diversity in the passing game.
Oh, heck yeah. So Devontae, I'm going to catch you a little off guard here. I'm going to ask you for one of two things. Will you choose which one you want? I either want a hot take from you for the upcoming Denver Nuggets or Denver Broncos season, or I want something that grinds your gears. It could be anything like rules in the NFL, rules in the NBA, or just literally anything.
All right, I'll take my hot take. All right, so my hot take on this is going to be the NFL season coming up with the Broncos. I believe that we're going to have a showout season. I really do. I know that people like to say that every single year, talking about their favorite teams, but I think with the defensive acquisitions and our offensive new players that we have coming in, I don't see any reason that we don't take potentially the number one seat in the AFC West, and I think that we're going to be a team to be reckoned with. Honestly.
That's awesome. And like it's one of those things where I don't think it lives outside of reality in terms of all it takes is the Chiefs, not winning every single game by 1 to 2 points, and actually those tip in the other way. And then the Chargers potentially fluttering out. So I think it lives within the realm of possibility. And those are the best hot takes, hot takes that they're a little spicy, but it's like, the ball bounces this way, something happens that way. I can see it
Mhm.
happening.
Hey, it's just about our boys staying healthy and staying to the game plan. We showed that we do have a weakness against offenses that have a agile quarterback. I mean, what Lamar Jackson did with the Ravens this last season, putting that dub on us the way that they did, that hurt. But it also showed a weakness in our defense that we need to put pressure on the quarterback. So like I said again, us doubling down on defense, I love it because there's nothing wrong that can happen about shutting down offenses and allowing your boys to get back on the field to make something happen on the other side.
That's one thing that with the offseason we had in terms of defense, I'm super excited about because Dre Greenlaw, like, obviously health, like who knows what's going to happen. But the guy's a stud middle linebacker when healthy. And then above and beyond that, I also think that Barron, like, how I told you he's going to be kind of running Joker packages and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think that they're going to have him QB spying sometimes because he's got that physicality and just the overall just athleticism and everything to stick with people like that. So I think that was one thing that Sean Payton realized and something that I knew about the Broncos before they played Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson is they can't defend a mobile quarterback. We can't defend the mobile quarterback because we're the type that we pin our ears down and lock people up, but as soon as the things break down, they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" Yeah. Any final comments you have on either the Denver Nuggets or the Denver Broncos unrelated to anything we've discussed so far?
The Denver Nuggets, I just really hope that they rattle the cage in some type of way and form. I know that they have the potential to get themselves in a position to get another chip, but I would just hate to see ownership go stagnant and them not make any big decisions and keep the same team that they have and just hoping that, you know, that it's just going to work out, that just the pieces are going to magically fall in line and that, when we get into the playoffs that Porter's actually going to show up. And I don't know, and I would like to see some change as far as like, what's possible. I know you talked about our salary cap and things like that. That makes things difficult, but I really want to see some change there.
Yeah, honestly, with Porter, I'm getting to the point to where, and I mean, it sucks to say, but like, I think he's served his purpose. If you get what I mean, like, we won a championship, like that's awesome. I'm willing at this point to let him go for like a first just to free up the salary cap space. And the reason being is so that we're not so top heavy and we're able to round out the roster a little bit. Like, imagine if we're 8 to 9 deep instead of 6 to 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at what Aaron Gordon has done with his game, right? To go
Impressive.
from someone who's just a middle of the key kind of guy, low getting dunks and things like that, to totally transforming his game. Now he's able to get out from beyond the arc and be able to put him down. And he's doing it at the volume that Porter's been doing in his prime years. So it's awesome to see that this man put in the work and he may be able to actually take some of that role over. I mean, he's always going to be a low man. He's always going to be that quick dish out for Jokic, but he's also a good outlook man. Just to go ahead, throw it off to the side, let him shoot from the corner, and he's good for it. I never really thought I would see that in Aaron Gordon, but for him to change his game the way that he did, I mean, it shows hard work, shows dedication. But I think that allows us some grace in making some decisions, knowing that we got other players that can step up into that role. You know.
Yeah, my theorized trade for Porter for the last 2 years has been Porter straight up for Jeremy Grant. Because I personally think if we brought Jeremy Grant back with his ability to play 3 and D, oh man, it would be over. We'd have Jeremy Grant and Aaron Gordon who both can guard 4 positional spots. One being all the way to point guard, the other one being all the way to center. Like, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, most definitely. Because yeah, we need to answer on the defensive end of the ball for sure. I mean, some of these games that we had, I mean, we're shooting out, we're having great offensive spreads, but then on the other side, it's just the lay down session, and some of that I will say, as great as Jokic is, sometimes he kills me when it comes to getting back on defense. He's slow up the court, and that leaves the center wide open. But finding a way to get that focus back on the all around, defense and offense, keeping their scoreboard down and allowing us to stretch up. I think that'll help.
Yeah, and that was kind of also my other thoughts with Jeremy Grant was it helps with the defensive deficiencies of Jokic and Murray. You know what I mean? Because like unfortunately we got to kind of make up for some stuff with our roster, but
We do.
it is what it is because you live with things like that for their moments on the other end of the court during the clutch. So and I mean and Jokic in general, like I could care less what people say about him defensively because there's not very many stats that can actually capture the amount of stolen possessions that he steals. Yeah, the guy's just amazing. I can go on about him for days.
I totally understand, and that's why it's hard for me to really point out a negative when it comes to Jokic. I mean, that's
But
probably the
they
only
do
thing I could
exist.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, every player, you're gonna have a little bit of something. I mean, in the overall, what he's done for this team, this organization, and what he's able to do for the people around him. I mean, he really is the tide that rises all ships, man. He's taken players that are essentially no name guys. I mean, a lot of these guys that they're on other rosters. I mean, you might not be hearing their name as much, but because he is who he is and he has the vision that he does, he can get them the ball in the best position to make plays. I mean, he really makes everybody better just by being on the court.
Yeah, and come to think about it, in our first 4 or 5 episodes, whatever the case may be, I've never really given Jokic his due. It's one of those things where you don't really talk about him because he's just so dang successful and so dang good that he's out of sight, out of mind because it's like, oh, well, we're set there. But I just want it to be known the guy is the Messiah. I truly appreciate watching him every single game I get the chance. Every minute that he plays is a pleasure for me as a Nuggets fan because I've been through the mud, and to get a chance to watch greatness as it happens, I'm just forever thankful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I mean, there were some painful years as a young man growing up in Denver, watching the Nuggets, and I mean, sometimes you would just turn on the game just to watch a ball. It wasn't even necessarily to
Yeah.
hope that your boys are going to win. But now, when I'm able to, turn on the game out here and I'm able to watch the boys, I know that they got a fighting chance to go up against anybody in the league and they can make it happen. And we've proven
Right.
that, it's just being consistent. That's the biggest thing is just being consistent. And there's a few people on the roster that I know you and you guys have been hammering Murray hard about it. I know, but it does have to be addressed. That
Yeah.
that consistency and that change from regular season to postseason, it does hurt. I think we definitely could have been north of 55 W's this season. I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
And in my last episode, I did kind of let back a little bit because I recognized I was a little hard on him. And truth be told, he's better than 75-80% of anybody we could put in those shoes, you know what I mean? So um it's like I told Vinny, it's like I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. You know what I mean? Like you got to give him that dad energy of,
Yeah.
you could be better, but if you're okay with being a BC student, I don't know what to tell you. You need some drive. No. But yep. That being said, we've covered a lot of ground today, and I just want Nuggets Nation, Bronco Country, Denver, Gridiron, and Hoops listeners to know that there could be an ocean in between you and Denver, and it's not going to stop you from being a loyal fan. Thanks for
Oh
joining me
no.
today, Devontae.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to show some support and some love for the hometown. So right on. Thank you for
Heck,
the invite.
heck yeah, and just for customs, you got to give these guys an aloha on the way out.
All right. Aloha
Yeah, see
from the
that's
from the
generic
808.
right there. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today, and you have a great day.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
In the Mile High City, where the lights shine bright, the Broncos fight hard in the cold, clear night. With every Hail Mary, our hopes take flight, and the Nuggets dribble dreams into the spotlight. 24 seconds, the clock's racing down. And hoops, me stand tall. With every dunk and three, we give it our all. In the city of champions, we heed the call. Together as one, we rise, never fall. With a quick crossover and a thunderous slam, the crowd's roaring wild, it's now or never, man. From the court to the field, we stake our claim. Together we'll rise, united in the game. Hit sticks collide, feel the energy surge. Dunk and play, we give it our all. In the city of champions, we heed the call. Together as one, we rise, never fall. So let's lace up tight, let the games begin. In Denver's heart, where we all win.